Welcome everyone to the Back of the Nest preview podcast. My name isn't Terence Ford of redandbluearmy.co.uk fame. My name's Albert. I'm joined by Sam Hesketh here, and crucially not Terence. No, who's struggling with childcare issues. I think he's upset his daughter. So me and Hesketh have been put in the hot seat just to do it ourselves, which, listen, ultimately, it's what we want to do every week, isn't it?
It is. It's very serendipitous that his young daughter, I believe, has teething issues, which is something that we're probably going to say that we have on this pod when it all goes horribly wrong. Yeah, well,
we're definitely going to have teething issues because not only are we're the preview pod, but we're actually reviewing a game, and then we have to preview the next game. And it's only for the fact that I've got Terry's notes in front of me that I'm not going to have to say the words, who are we playing at the weekend? Because Terry's said we're playing Burnley. So this will all be fine.
Yeah.
I mean, I think at this point, Terry normally presses a button and there's the beer check jingle. Do you want to do that? Do you want to do the jingle? No, we'll move on from that.
Verbatim.
But yeah. You got the choice of two. You could do the one from Training Day, do your best Denzel Washington impression, or there's the other one where it slags off Heineken. But we'll skip past that. Beer check.
What fruity delight do you reckon Terence would have had were he not otherwise engaged?
I reckon he's supping on a can of Toddler's Tears at the moment.
Salty
tears, yeah. No, I don't know. God knows what. I mean, he was quite juiced up when I met him yesterday outside Vicarage Road. He very kindly waited outside for me whilst we missed kickoff. So I don't know what he'd been on. I don't know what he'd been on yesterday, but he was very vocal about a terrible chicken burger that he'd had in the Wetherspoons.
Yeah, he. We met him in the Wetherspoons primarily so I could give him your ticket. He didn't moan about the beer. He was moaning about the chicken burger, but then you're eating a chicken burger in Wetherspoons, so I'm not 100% sure what he wanted. But he didn't moan about the beer. I reckon he was probably on a pint of Heineken.
Probably. Man after my own heart.
He just didn't want to admit it because he knows the abuse that he'd get. Yeah,
absolutely. Have you got a beer at the moment?
Alas, I don't. I did have a Red Stripe as per usual.
Same one.
But now I've got a pint of water as per usual.
Yeah, I've not even got that. I haven't had a beer. I did have a pint of water, but now that's empty. So this is probably the worst. Terence is going to be fucking turning in his grave here. This is the worst beer check in the history of beer checks.
I've just looked up Tiny Rebel's website to see what sort of beer Terry drinks, and there's one called Lazy Boy, which seems quite apt for him because
there you go. Sums him up
we have no proof of said teething. We've just been thrown in at the deep end, and to give everyone a full picture of what Albert and I are seeing, Terry's camera is on. It's a plastic white chair with a very dubious looking brown, potentially cushion, potentially
stain.
Mistake.
Yeah.
So he could possibly be a lazy boy, which
he's also said that if it all settles down in Shea Ford, he might still join us. Which, you know, if this was live, this would be really exciting, but it ain't. So it's probably not. It's exciting for us in the moment, listeners. But yeah. So yeah, I guess we need to talk about the narrow victory over Roy's Hornets last night.
If I could channel Terence for a quick second, in a wonderful segue that he's always so professional at laying out, Palace actually announced the beer festival is coming back today.
Oh, that is a good segue. See, he does make it look easy, doesn't he? We slag him off.
He does. The problem that people seem to have is that the beer festivals have been announced for FA Cup final day.
What?
Which makes I think that Palace don't think we're getting to the final, which is, unless they haven't heard the song that we sing about Pat Vieira, we're actually on our way to Wembley. And I'm going to pretend that Wembley isn't used for the semi-finals because that ruins it. But I think...
What time is because the FA Cup final sometimes are like a really shit 5:30 annoying kickoff time. So maybe they're doing the ultimate day out. We go to Sellers Park for the beer festival, get tanked up, and then go to Wembley.
Could you imagine everyone at the beer festival piling onto one of the official coaches or many official coaches and being driven to Wembley?
No, I can't imagine everybody trying to pile onto one of the coaches. Although I would like to see that
hanging off the roof. It will be like the inverse of when Czech was on the bus when Senegal were going through with the AFCON trophy, and everyone was wobbling the bus. It's going to be everyone on the inside wobbling the bus, I think, this time. So one thing they have done, the beer festival, though, it was £10 to get in before, wasn't it? But now it's £15.
Wow. Outrageous. What was it, 2 years? 2 years since we've had one?
Yeah. It's inflation.
It's not in line with inflation. It's very, very inflated.
Very inflated. You still get
to keep a glass?
You do. I'm drinking out of one of our old ones at the moment.
Yeah. Will there be Heineken there? That's the age-old question.
Well, this is the problem, isn't it? It doesn't suit you and I. There's no Red Stripe. There's no Heineken. So I don't know what we're supposed to do.
No. It's like things like Cheese Monkey and stuff like that.
I just end up going for whatever fruity cider they have, and then about 3 pints in, not only being pissed because I realise that all the ciders are like 12%, but then realising that I've basically just drunk like syrup for the last 2 or 3 hours, and then feel like I want to be sick.
My taste buds are always shot when I go in there anyway because I've had a tasty jerk. So I might as well be drinking Heineken because that takes the top layer off your tongue. But that's good. But a bit worrying that it's on FA Cup final day. But I guess that's something we'll have to keep an eye on.
Yeah, not saying that I think we're going out to Stoke anyway, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it, I suppose.
Save that for the Stoke preview pod at least. Don't go all in on the negativity.
5 minutes into this one
before we've even reviewed the positive game that we have had recently.
And it was positive. First of all, you, Terence, and I were all at the game together. Even though you and I were photographed together, and you and I spoke maybe 10 words total. To each other, but we've got that like subconscious bond.
Yeah, eight of those words were us just saying "get in" after each goal. Yeah, hello,
get in,
get in, and then a see you later at the end, and then bye at the end.
Which
is all I needed.
It is. I was going to say you had the short straw and was stood next to Terence for the game. I was a little bit further down the line.
Yes, Terence was. I know he was a few sheets to the wind, but I you know what? I should have written them down. He was saying some terrible things. What did he say? He said he tried to make a terrible pun about Jack Butland, and I know we were outside, but it proper stank up the place. And if Terence has got any decency, he will remember and at least tweet what he said about Jack Butland. It wasn't offensive. It was just a really, really bad pun. And
disappointing.
Nick Gussett would have hung his head in shame.
The ultimate burn, that is, I think. If Nick Gussett doesn't think a punt's good, then we're really in trouble.
Shite. So how did you feel about going into the game? I mean, I didn't even see the team. I was in such a rush to get there. I didn't even know what the team lineup was until I was literally going through the turnstile. And by that point, the team was on the pitch and it had kicked off.
I was pretty nervous for the game, to be honest, because we'd sort of we've had a couple of good performances mixed in with one average one. Like Norwich and Chelsea were good performances. Brentford wasn't. And I was just hoping we'd sort of get on the front foot a bit to start with, because I think Watford had sort of tightened up a little bit at the back in the last few games, and they beat Villa away, didn't they? Which is quite a good result. So I was a bit nervous, but I thought the team was the right one. It was good to have a striker back up front, and Wilf out on the wing, because Wilf quite likes playing Watford, doesn't he? So that was all right. And I was quite happy to see Mark Gay given the captain's armband as well. I think a lot of us have talked about he sort of just seems like a natural leader anyway. So I don't think it was too much of a decision for Vieira to give him the armband, but he had another good performance. So yeah, that was good, and we started off all right. So that settled my nerves a little bit. How did you feel about beforehand?
Yeah, like I say, I was learning on the job. Like I said, I hadn't seen the team. It was only when we were going in that Terence was running me through it, and it was same back four. It wasn't like a drastically different team. I mean, I was more surprised at the team that got put out against Chelsea. So yeah, I thought I raised a bit of an eyebrow that Mateta had started considering neither Benteke or Edouard really got a look in the previous game. To see Mateta come in was didn't not like it, but I thought it was a bit of a strange. I thought Edouard might have been or Benteke might have been being sort of saved for Watford, but it turns out that wasn't the case. But yeah, I mean, from the first. I was going to say from the first minute. I wasn't actually there for the first minute. from the first minute that I saw, we were definitely trying to be on the front foot, very positive. Elise very, very quickly, almost not focal point. He wasn't playing up front; he was out wide. But almost everything where possible was trying to go through Elise. And I mean, very early on, he had that full back on toast.
Yeah, he really did.
His touch, it just gets better and better every game. There's these balls pinging across to him at a rate of knots, and he just somehow manages to kill it, put it out in front of him, and then he's on his way. It was so refreshing. But yeah, I thought the team lineup was positive, and I thought we got off to a good start.
Yeah, we did, and I agree with what you're saying about Elise's touch. I mean, some of the passes that were coming to him, how he's able to not only sort of control it but also move off straight away afterwards. Like it's almost one motion. It's unbelievable, and his touch is sort of the opposite of Mateta's, where Mateta is all arms and legs and seems to have a weird propensity for nutmegging opposition players. Mateta, like that seems to be his close control in those sort of situations when I feel like he sort of doesn't have to think about is instinctual is good. But we had the chance when he was clear through on goal, and at no point did I think he was going to score. And he sort of tripped over a bit, and I was like I quite like Mateta, but when he sort of tripped over and stumbled a bit, I was just sort of like, that's exactly what I thought was going to happen.
I think what I noticed about Mateta yesterday is that it's a bit like that thing where he's got very little acceleration, but if you give him 30 yards, he does actually build up quite a head of steam, and he's actually quite pacey. But then he very quickly tips over into that sort of physicality where you're running so hard that you're almost falling over. Do you know what I mean? Have you ever done that?
Yeah.
Like you're running.
You get done by your own momentum.
Yeah, because he's top heavy. So the momentum's taking him forward. So when he's like, if in a scenario where he's through on goal and he's very gradually building up to that sort of fifth gear, you're like, it's only a matter of time before he's going over.
Yeah, the two stages of him in the box are goal or fall over
or clumsy. Yeah, absolutely.
But then, I mean, if you look at the goal that he scored, obviously, look, it took a massive deflection. But I don't like if that's Benteke in the box there. I don't think he spins and smacks it first time. I think he sort of will try and set himself up for an easier shot. So I think it is good to have Mateta. Like, he is instinctual, and like his goal at home against Norwich, where he just hit it first time, and you're like,
he just swept it in.
Yeah, his head, his mindset is like, just have a shot. And it did take a big deflection, but if you're not taking those shots, you don't get that sort of luck. And it meant that we got to see another corner flag get kicked, which is always pretty fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And it took a big deflection, but I think up until that point, we'd definitely been the dominant team. Hadn't had a huge amount of clear-cut chances before that point, but we were we were getting into the vital areas and putting the crosses in. And so I don't think anybody could deny that we were worthy of the 1-0 lead. But unfortunately, it didn't last very long, and it was kind of the same old story from set pieces, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I mean, the more you look back on our defending for that corner, the more annoying it is. Because, I mean,
was there any defending?
Well, that's the thing. Apparently, I'm under the impression from the commentary watching it back that Sissoko hadn't scored for ages, which is obviously nailed on for him to score against us.
Standard fare.
But he's quite a big lad. I just sort of think he's definitely one to keep an eye on in the box. And Conor Gallagher, for whatever reason, seemed to be marking him in theory. And then when the ball came in, it wasn't cleared at the near post, which Benteke is very good at. If he'd have played, maybe that could happen. But also, Gallagher just didn't jump. I'm not saying he would have jumped high enough and put him off, but it might have put Sissoko off his stride, or he might have misheaded it. Because I saw a few people saying, "Oh, Butland should have punched it," but you can see he's clearly trying. There's a bloke in front of him, and if Sissoko's 6 yards out and has pretty much a free header, I mean, I'm pretty sure I could have scored that, and I always close my eyes when I hit the ball. So that's.
So I close my eyes when everybody else heads the ball as well.
Yeah, just hope for the best.
Just hope for the best, mate.
It's just kind of disappointing that we'd sort of gotten over our set piece nonsense, and then 2 minutes after we'd scored, we were back to it, and it's just frustrating because, like you say, we'd been the better team. And then almost instantly, it didn't really matter because they were back into it. But
yeah, absolutely. And I feel I have to use Terence's stat that he's very kindly left in his notes that we are now back ahead. I say, are we ahead of Leicester as the worst? Yeah, that does make sense. We're below Leicester as having conceded the most from set pieces, which isn't we've never been great at it. I mean, we're obviously a little bit better under Roy, but even towards the end of Roy's tenure, fucking set pieces were flying in left, right, and centre. So it's still something that needs to be addressed, and maybe a better team might have exploited it more. But Watford's sort of skipping forward a bit too much. But Watford's best chances weren't actually from set pieces, were they? Was it Dennis up front had a couple of gilt edge chances that he should have put in. But listen, we'll come back to that later. I think the thing that I found galling was that we also rarely scored from corners under Roy, and little do we know that faced a Roy team and a quite tragically out of form Watford team in general. But yeah, the first sniff they get from a set piece, and they nod it in. So it's nice to know that Roy's actually got it in him to make those count. Bless him.
Yeah. But, obviously we didn't let it get to us. I think that was the one thing I was a bit worried about where they scored straight away. I didn't want us to then have everything completely undone and we just sort of go into our shell and lose our way. And we didn't, we didn't have tons and tons of chances, but we definitely looked a lot better on the ball. Wilf looked very good, I thought, in the first half, a lot more assured. And, obviously we'll come on to him in a bit, but again, having him and Elise on the wings, both playing well, both looking good with the ball, it's such a help to the team because you're not having to just go to the one guy and hoping for the best. And it was borne out in the second goal. So the first goal came down Elise's side, Elise and Gallagher getting the ball into the box. And then our second goal came from the other side. Nice bit of play from Wilf to start with to get the ball to tie. His first cross bouncing off Will Hughes' head. It was a very unorthodox one too, but I enjoyed it. And then the cross that Mitchell put in was hit. It was arrowed. I mean, it was an unbelievable cross. The technique on it was unbelievable. And just when you think that's the best bit of it, Conor Gallagher draws one of the best bits of control I can remember ever seeing, where he sort of kills the ball dead, but puts it to the side of him, completely takes the defender out, and then rifles it top corner. In a sort of finish that we're used to him scoring now. I mean, I think Terence said to me at half time, he said, you knew it was in. You said to him as soon as he got that ball controlled, you knew it was a goal.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and there was going back to the Mitchell cross. There was a couple of, I think it was before that. There's a couple of really good crosses in from Mitchell. There was one of them that he sort of hit first time, just sort of really gently cushions it in, and I think it was clear at the near post. And Mateta probably should have anticipated it a bit more and sort of chucked his head at it without falling over. But yeah, I mean, what a goal! And I mean, I think Watford had a bit of a spell after their equaliser, and it clearly sort of pepped them up a little bit. And I'm not gonna say we're on the back foot, but they definitely had a lot more of the ball in our half. But we were resilient, and I think going back to the Elise one side, Zaha the other side, particularly when you've got, I mean, Anderson's passing yesterday was pretty exquisite, sort of for 85% of his long balls that he put over. Either found Elise or Zaha or found space for them to run into. There was a few wayward ones, which you're going to get, but not doing him a disservice. But you think back to when it was, Damien Delaney's at centre half. Damien Delaney famous for sort of the hopeful 70-yard, very floaty diagonal in the, hitting it in hope that Wilf's going to get on the end of it. But now what I noticed yesterday particularly is that. Anderson's got the ball and he looks to his left and sees if Wilf's available, and if it's if they're sort of bunching up on Wilf, he instantly shifts the ball to the other side and he looks, and again 9 times out of 10 Elise's in more space, and he's just got that technique and that speed of thought just to ping it, and it's such a valuable weapon, and like you say, having those options on either wing, it does make us a threat. It's really nice to see that. It's not just, right, where's Wilf? Let's give the ball to Wilf. I think that was really apparent yesterday that there's options there, and it's it makes us a much better team when we need to go long, for want of a better term.
Yeah, absolutely. I think with Anderson, the passes that he didn't make, weirdly, were the ones that were sort of the easier passes. Like that he sort of underhit a couple, or like tried to overdo it after that and overhit a couple, knocked a couple out, but. His long passing is, really good. And you're not going to get 100% success rate. And there was a couple, I think, where maybe he thought a run was going to be made and it wasn't. But when he does ping them and they reach their target, which happens more often than you would imagine it would, it does make such a difference. And I think Gay is capable as well. He doesn't try it quite as much. And he tends to be more of a running forward with the ball. But he's hit a few sort of like crossfield passes like that. And, if you can couple that with, again, another brilliant defensive performance from Gay, I thought. There was a couple of times in the first half, and I think Mitchell had a very good game. There's a couple of times where the ball got sort of over the top of him and he got a bit burnt for pace because Zaha is so quick. But Gay just, tidied it up, There was no real trouble. Zaha didn't get the ball in any real danger area because Gay was covering so well and didn't just punt the ball out, but sort of stops and thinks about it, gets a move going. And, I think because we're playing a Roy team last night, the way that we bring the ball out and the way we play football is so different to what we were used to over the last couple of years. When you're playing against a team defending in a way that we know Roy likes to defend, it does make you appreciate what a job Vieira is doing, even though some of the results aren't quite as good as they should be or we'd hope them to be. And I think having ball playing defenders like Gay and Anderson really helped that. And
yeah, completely.
I think Ty, going back to Mitchell, he just looks better every game. Going forward, he's a lot more confident. He did have one bit of the game where he was sort of the furthest man forward and he was running into the box almost reluctantly and had a shot that sort of spiraled over the bar. But, in terms of getting forward, supporting the wingers and getting crosses in, he's been so good. And I'm really, really glad that Connor scored off of that amazing cross because every part of that goal was just brilliant. And
it was peachy.
It was, and we were able to sort of see out the rest of the half. What I didn't want was to give away another bloody corner in injury time just before half time and concede. But going in at half time, 2-1 up, were you confident? Do you think that we were in control at that point?
Yeah, I mean, you've said it there. The natural sort of nervousness about set pieces and corners is always, as we saw with their first and only goal. They had one sniff of a corner, and they're back in the game, and that's a weakness that we're all aware of, and we have to do something about it. I'm not expecting every minor issue to be ironed out now or this season. It isn't. It feels stating the obvious, but it's a new manager. It's a significant number of new players, and the existing players are having to adapt to what isn't Roy Hodgson style football, good or bad. It's different, and we're not going to be winning every game, but the style and the personnel, it's there to see. And listen, Watford are in dire straits, but we were miles better than them yesterday, and I know Roy controversially thinks 4-1 flattered us, but apart from the couple of half chances, or one very, very decent chance that I was expecting them to score in the second half, they didn't really trouble us too much, and we look very comfortable, and I'm starting to develop very strong feelings for Mark Gay in particular. I mean, he's just incredible. I mean, in fact, I reminiscing to the League Cup game, which was that was like our second or third game of the season, and I was there with a couple of local mates who aren't Watford fans, for the record, or Palace fans, and just saying that we've got these two centre halves, and Anderson that night was pinging those balls, and it's like, Jesus Christ, he's so good, and it was kind of, he sort of felt like the standout of the two. Not saying Gay he was bad at all, but Anderson seemed to be the one that was like, oh, he's going to be our new sort of talisman at the back. But as the season's developed, you watch Gay a bit more. He's a bit more subtle with what he does and how he does it, and he's not always looking to hit that ball. But I mean, there's times yesterday where, again, you've alluded to it already. You know what you're getting from a Hodgson side. They were really, really backing off, and Gay's got the ball 10 yards outside our own area, and there's another like 20 yards in front of him that he, if he wanted to, he could just bomb into, sort of Mamadou Sakho style. And you're sort of thinking he's got that in him, and it's such a rare quality for a centre half, especially when he's also so good defensively. I think we'll struggle to hold on to him beyond another season or two. I mean, I think he's quality, and he's definitely a shout for England as well. And to see him with the captain's armband, like it's I'm like I say, I'm starting to go a bit sort of doughy eyed around Mark Gay. He's quality.
Yeah,
but going into half time, I think we deserved the lead. The Connor goal was amazing, and they didn't look great. And we know, I mean, that's the other thing. And again, it sounds like putting the boot on Roy. You know that Watford aren't going to come out and all of a sudden he's making two changes and the system's changed, and we don't really know what we're up against anymore. I mean, he did make a sub at 55 minutes, which I know a lot of people were surprised by. But yeah, I don't think we were ever really in any danger, apart from, like I say, a couple of chances that they missed. But just more of the same in the second half. And it's a shame that I'd love to have been behind the goal for a couple of those Wilf goals. I mean, he just grew into it. First half, I could definitely hear a little bit of, shall we say, Wilf moaning and groaning from people a few rows behind. But
yeah,
he wasn't bad. He wasn't 10 out of 10 like we expect him to be most weeks. But second half particularly, I mean, again, it's almost like he was trying to sort of show Elise up with some of the touches and the flicks and the back heels that he was doing. I mean, there was one out on the left wing, and I think he sort of dragged it back behind his heel, and it looked like he nutmegged the play, but he didn't. But he sort of just laid the ball 5 yards inside, and you see a lot of people questioning why Wilf doesn't or can't beat a man anymore just by sheer trickery and pace and going round him. And it's like, he actually doesn't need to anymore. He's got it within him to not have to just get his head down and go around people. He's got that control and the strength and the way he uses his body to hold people off to just find another way to get around and sort of spring an attack. I thought he was well worthy of his 2 goals yesterday.
Yeah, same. And I think, like you say, we came out in the second half, and it was sort of more. We just carried on where we left off. I think we looked very, very comfortable at the back. I thought the midfield 3 were very, very good. It was quite funny to hear how many Watford fans were booing Hughes, who I thought had a very good game and clearly enjoyed having a good game when he was getting booed by the Watford fans. There was a challenge. I think it was in the first half, but Zaha had the ball sort of near us on the side, and Hughes put in a sliding, very hard, completely fair, but very hard tackle, and sort of punted the ball off from about 2 yards, but also got a fair bit of Zaha, who got up and definitely had words with him, and Hughes just sort of jogged off smiling. And I think he's a sort of player. We've said it before, where we need a bit, like Cabaye was, a bit of an arsehole sometimes in the middle, ratty, annoying, sort of little shit. And I think he knows that's what he can do, and he enjoys it. And he definitely had a very good game. And when you can bring on, James McArthur as a sub, that the squad is doing all right. Even though, moving on to Wilf again, even though those 2 goals were late on, it just felt like we were comfortably the better team. And even, this is even me saying it, it felt like another goal was coming, just because we looked incisive when we got the ball going forward. And I think Wilf's first goal, when I see the replay of it, it's better than I initially thought. I think Ayew did a really good bit of play. I know people didn't want Elise to go for Ayew, but I think Ayew is a very good player to have in your locker, to bring on either to sort of see a win out and control possession, or to harry back and help out the defence. But, he put in a perfect cross. Wilf obviously called it, because you can see Mateta sort of start to go for the ball and then stop. And Wilf just goes from, 0 to 100. He takes a quick touch on his left foot and smashes it in.
Bit similar to the bit similar to sort of Conor Gallagher. I mean, Conor Gallagher plucks it out of the air and shifts his weight and shifts the ball and loses the defender. But sort of looking at it again today, obviously it was down the far end from where we were, so I can't say I saw it in all its glory last night. But it's kind of a similar sort of touch. He sort of just manages to shift it, lose a defender, and does and hits it low and hard and does old GoPro at the near post.
And he clearly loves it. He wasn't getting as much abuse as we normally hear, but there was definitely some of their fans giving him some shit. So obviously enjoyed him running off to their fans and giving it the cup tears, and he was then saving the best till last. I mean, I think it came from one of their set pieces maybe, and Jimmy took a wonderful touch to sort of sell their guy and bring the ball forward, hit a brilliant ball in space, and then Wilf basically does a carbon copy of his Norwich goal, where he cuts inside. He's only got one thing on his mind, and it's just inch perfect, sort of into the side netting. And that, I mean, from where we were, obviously, as you say, we're up the other end. As soon as you hit it, you knew that was going in. Like, you could just see that going in. And the amount, I think what was quite funny was when he scored our third, the amount of Watford fans who left was unbelievable. Like, the sheer amount of people who left was unbelievable. And it was so much so that people were still queuing to get out when Wilf scored the fourth, which I thought was quite funny.
I've not had a good cheerio sing song for quite a while. I mean,
a classic.
You go to way more games than I do, even at home, and I can't remember the last time there was a resounding cheerio.
Even we rinse Brighton a bit for doing it, but like the amount of people who got up at that third, as soon as that third goal went in, was unbelievable. But I think as well with the goals with Wilf, I think his overall play was so good. He took people on when he needed to. He passed when he needed to. I think his tracking back was very good as well. I think a lot of the time he does track back, but gets caught up and fouls, gives away a silly foul, which obviously we don't want when we can't defend set pieces. But he didn't really do that yesterday, and Vieira then came out afterwards and said that was the best game that Wilfred played, during his tenure, which doesn't surprise me at all. And for all of the Wilf's not as good as he was, and we should get rid of him brigade, I think he's got a goal. I think 8 goals in 21 games or something, and he's joint top scorer with Gallagher. So he's not doing too bad. I wouldn't mind having someone who's not very good doing that on a consistent basis as he does.
Yeah, there was a tweet. I think I saw a tweet today that said he's now scored as many this season as Bowen, Antonio, and they're all players that are, I think the tweet was along the lines of all these other players are being described as being in the the form of their life and unplayable, but the narrative around Zaha is that he's not having a great season, and it's like, well, yeah, but he scored, he's on well on form to hit double figures. Which is not something many Palace players do season on season,
no,
especially without penalties. And his game's changed, but it's he's just finding ways to be effective differently. And any detractors, only need to watch that game yesterday. It's mad it's mad that we're even talking about there being Zaha detractors. He's the king.
He is, and Terence has again dropped us a nice little stat to read out. He said since 14-15, Wilf has 81 goals and assists in the Premier League and is in the top 15 of all forwards. And like you say, when you consider a lot of that time, if he's playing under managers who are primarily defensively minded, not really creating very much. Certainly in the last couple of years, we were creating bugger all. We'd have like one shot in the game. For him to be in the top 15 of all forwards and be on over 80 goals and assists, especially when he's played most of that time on the wing as well, isn't he? It's unbelievable. And he as far as I'm concerned, I've said this so many times, he's the best player I've ever seen play for Palace. I can't imagine anyone's going to have as much of a lasting impression for as long as he's been there. In a very, very long time. So I'm good to see. Yeah, I'm happy to see him show people what he can do still. And he got voted man of the match, and I can't see any complaints of that. He got my vote. What did you think?
I was thinking about it before he scored the second goal, and it was like, yeah, Will's definitely a contender. Elise, contender, but obviously didn't see most of the game out, which isn't his fault. Gahey, I thought was fantastic. Nobody really had a bad game. Even Klein sort of grew into the game after looking a bit rusty at the beginning. But yeah, it's Zaha, isn't it? You scored 2 goals like that. Even if that's all you do, you're probably a shoo-in for man of the match.
And we've got no real turnaround time for the next game, which is Saturday's game at home to Burnley, who, after looking perilous for most of the season, are now sort of making the most of their 17 games in hand or whatever it is, and have followed up their win away to Brighton with a home win against Tottenham and started an Antonio Conte meltdown by all accounts after the game.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, I think these are the sort of games that we look to and we say, yeah, we've got to win. We said it for the Norwich and Brentford sort of double header, and we've said it for Watford, Burnley. But Burnley are in good form. They've apparently only conceded 2 goals in their last 6 games. They've had draws with Man U and Arsenal, and they only lost 1-0 to Liverpool. So they're by no means in bad form. And it's not going to be as easy as potentially we thought it would be a few weeks ago.
Yeah, completely. But before we get too deep into the Burnley preview, which I know is the title of this podcast, I just want to take a moment to reflect on the fact that Spring has sprung, and our friends at Manscaped have the best tools for some spring cleaning in your pants. How does he do this? Trust me, your confidence will be blooming like the flowers this upcoming spring. Time to clear out that winter bush and join the other 4 million men who trust Manscaped. Use code BOTN to get 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com.
Wonderfully done. And
Do you think Sean Dyche uses one of these on his head?
I was just about to say, maybe he should use his Manscaped on that fucking ginger goatee that he's had for the last 15 years. He can use our code.
Dear.
We don't mind that. You use our code and we'll take the 3 points and we'll call it quits. I think that's fair.
There you go. There we go, Sean. And if he did shave it off, he definitely would be Sean. But we'll move on from that. So swiftly followed up with Burnley, like you say. They found a bit of. I mean, they've had plenty of opportunities to win games because they're just playing every fucking 5 minutes. Bless them. Just very quickly, whilst talking about managers, did you have any sort of pang of guilt or sympathy for Roy yesterday?
I did not.
How did that feel? You did not. No, me neither.
Well, one of my mates who wasn't at the game texted and said, was there booing or clapping or cheering for Roy? And honestly, I didn't even really notice him come out at the beginning of the game, which sort of tells a story in itself. But there was a good rousing few verses of Hodgson as a Palace fan towards the end of the game, which was quite funny.
There was also, just before that, there was also not many people, but I think there was a bit of an attempt to try and make Hodgson make a sub, which, and from the Palace fans, I might add.
Yeah.
Which erred on the sort of tiptoed in the realms of disrespect, which kind of hurt me a little bit. But yeah, it was weird. It was weird seeing him on the sidelines, and when Sissoko scored that goal, blimey, it was fucking scenes on the Watford bench. Roy nearly went over.
Limbs from Hodgson and Lewinson.
Yeah, he nearly got bunt. I mean, luckily the hospital was just next door to the ground, so he would have been all right. Had something happened. But it was weird. It was weird seeing Roy in the opposite dugout.
It was. But, I think us winning quite convincingly and playing really nice football sort of allayed any fears that I had that we, had made a mistake. I mean, I didn't really think we'd made a mistake anyway. We've talked about that so many times on this pod that it was time for him to go and say thanks for everything and see you later. I don't think any of us thought he'd be lining up in the Watford dugout the next season. But no, I think I'm happy with the direction we're taking as a club. I'm happy that he's taken Watford in the completely opposite direction and hopefully continues into the Championship.
Rumours that he tried to walk onto one of the Palace fan coaches to get a lift back to Croydon, but they remain unconfirmed. So just going back to Burnley, obviously we've smashed Watford away from home 4-1, prime relegation candidate. What did you want to see happen against another relegation candidate a mere 3 days later? Are you rigging the changes? What do you think is going to happen?
Well, before I answer that, I will just tell you that as we're recording, Max Meyer's Danish team, who I think are called Midtjylland, are in a penalty shootout with potentially PAOK from Greece, but I can't see on the telly. And Max Meyer just missed a penalty in the penalty shootout.
Well, he wasn't given enough time.
So his legs are stiff from sitting on the bench for the last. He
didn't have enough. It wasn't given enough opportunities to score that penalty.
Roy knew. Roy's smiling over his Chianti in Watford at the moment. With the Burnley game, it's weird because I think, like you said, Edouard and Benteke haven't played, and you sort of wonder whether they're being rested, so they rotate in up front. But I think Mateta looked pretty good yesterday. I think he had a pretty good performance. If he's fit, I would imagine he'll stay in. I I don't think he'll play Benteke just because I think Ben Mee and Tarkovsky, whoever they play at centre back at, are so used to dealing with that sort of striker in training because that's all Burnley have. I think it makes more sense to have a bit of a mobile striker up front, like a Mateta or an Edouard. Which is, again, a bit unfair on Benteke because he was in decent form, but I think it's quite harsh to drop Mateta in the form he's in, and I think Edouard's more likely to get a start than Benteke. So that would be interesting. I suppose the other one is whether you bring Jimmy in to start, because I think everyone played so well against Watford. It's harsh to drop them, but then we've got so many games coming up. I mean, we've got the cup game not long after Burnley that you've got to rotate a bit. Otherwise, we'll end up getting all the bloody injuries we've had over the last 2 years.
All right, I'm just gonna hit you with a few quick fire questions. Okay, and this is on the assumption that everyone's fit.
Yep.
Klein or Ward?
Oh, geez, that's probably the toughest one you can ask because neither of them are in great form. I suppose Klein, just because he's in the zone, even though his zone's not very good.
Okay, Hughes or MacArthur?
I'd probably go MacArthur, just because I think he's one of our best players, period. And yeah, he was a sub, wasn't he, the last game? So fitness levels will be all right.
Okay, Elise or are you?
Elise. I don't think Burnley will be able to handle Elise.
You've sort of already answered this one. Edouard / Benteke or Mateta?
Yeah, I go Mateta. I think what's good is whoever does play, we've got good options off the bench, which we're not particularly used to. You know, like if we bring Edouard or Hughes or MacArthur or someone like that off the bench, your team is not getting worse. So it's a nice position to have, I think.
It is, and I feel bad that I can't even offer up a 50-50 short quick fire question that involves Eze. I mean, when Eze's not even getting a look in, things must be going well.
Yeah, and I reckon Ebbs will probably start in the cup, and I would want him to because I think he needs it. But it's so weird, isn't it, that last year Eze was like the new hope, and he was such an exciting player, even though none of us were actually in the stand to see it. And now it's like, well, Wilf's amazing again, and now we've got Elise, and now we can purr about how good our centre halves are, and Conor Gallagher scoring all these goals. So Ebbs is, not through no fault of his own, is a bit of a forgotten man at the moment. So it is a good position because it means obviously the team are doing well, and we've got players in midfield that are in good form. But I think, I would imagine Ebbs, and then whoever doesn't start out of Jimmy and Hughes will probably start in the cup game against Stoke.
Nice. And team news for Burnley, it looks like Cornet is likely to miss. I always wanted to say Cornetto. Yeah, Cornetto. that would be the headline if he scored anyway. And it says here that Mee scored on Wednesday against Spurs. I don't remember that. Ben Mee scored on Wednesday against Spurs. Terence has put here, surely he can't score in consecutive games. So that means he's going to fucking score in consecutive games. Well done, Terence.
Cheers, Tel.
Cheers, Tel. So we've got your team preferences there, Hesketh. One thing, only one thing left to do. And no, it's not hear you sing boom, 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 Mateta's in the room. I haven't got the jingle.
I would like to say there was a good rendition of it yesterday in the ground, and I put a poll up on Twitter of what makes Terence happier, Mateta scoring or me singing the Mateta song. Because when Mateta scored and we all started singing it, Terry thumped me in the arm and looked so like his eyes lit up like a kid at Christmas. And he was like, go on. So I was singing it. And then he shouted, you sound just like you do on the video. And I was like, well, that's because I'm the same person.
I'm the same person.
I I reckon Terence preferred me singing that song to Mateta actually scoring.
Yeah, I think he's listening to it right now.
He
That's
is.
why he's not here. He's just reliving the
around.
live experience. Yeah, that's why his daughter's so upset. Well, hopefully we get a Selhurst wide rendition of it, maybe with some drum action from the HF if they've still got a drum. Do a better job than Harry the fucking helmet last night. That's for sure. But listen, it only leaves us your time for your prediction.
I think it's very important that we don't lose. They're in good form. I'm always negative, so I'll go 1-0, and I would probably take that.
Are you worried if we lose?
Are
you worried?
I would be a lot less worried now that we've beaten Watford.
Yeah.
But my thing with those games is always, and we got used to it under Roy of like just not losing to teams below us. I was always like, as long as we keep them down there, then I'm sort of all right with it. I think if we play like we do against Watford, we have a very good chance of winning. But they're such a different team to Watford. Yeah, and I think they're sort of on the up, and Watford are definitely on the slide.
Yeah, they've come off the back of turning Spurs over, who previously turned City over. So I'm sure they'll have their tails up. And like you say, there's a lot of varying amounts of games played below us. You know, we're on 26, which is one of the there's nobody who's played more games. But then you go down to Burnley and they've only played 23. So they beat us and win the other two games. Then they're level on points with us, but. Again, you look at Watford and Norwich, they've played 25 games each. That's only one game less than us, and they're well adrift. So, I don't think it'll be the end of the world if we lose to Burnley. I mean, I'm not going to say I'm certainly not up for it. But, I think anyone that's got mild worries of us being dragged into it, I probably can start to relax a little bit, I'd like to think. Certainly if we don't lose on Saturday, which I don't think we will, I think we'll edge past them 2-1. And that'd be good times because what will that do? That'll push us a bit closer to Brighton, won't it? Would only be, I think, a point behind Brighton. Okay. Yeah, well, there you go. But no, I think yesterday was a. I mean, it's not that I'm not going to use the word turning point. I don't think we needed a turning point. It was just a step in the right direction. Turning these, these draws that should have been wins. I mean, the Chelsea game, I thought we were. Unlucky to come away on the with no points there, and we've gone away and we've put in a solid, convincing performance. I think we should all be a little bit excited about Saturday. I know I am because I've not been to Selhurst for a few weeks. 2 games in a week, Hesketh. What's going on?
I know, unbelievable. I might even see you on Saturday. That will blow my mind.
You might, yeah, absolutely. But listen, I think that is any other business, Hesketh? You got anything you want to say to the masses or sing or anything like that?
No, I think I'm all sung out after yesterday.
You need to rest your vocal cords for Saturday.
I do. Obviously,
like Celine Dion.
You want me to sing Celine Dion, or you want me to?
No, I said you're like Celine. You need to rest like Celine Dion. I mean, feel free to if you do want to do a little bit of. Will go on.
Every time I look in the mirror, I do think you've got a little bit of Celine Dion there. So you're not the first person to say that. No, I guess the only thing to say is I'm sure there'll be a match report coming over the weekend with whatever incredible combination gets put together. Definitely not at the last minute when everyone else pulls out. The cup games
might be me and you again.
It might be me and you. What a dream!
Yeah.
The cup game's on Tuesday, so I assume we will be back to preview the Wolves game and probably review the Stoke game as well, because we seem to be doing it all these days.
And talk about who we're getting in the next round, or who we got in the next round.
Sure. I'm not getting involved in that.
Well, you'll have to. We have no choice because we're going into the next round. Anyway, listen, thank you very much for listening. Sorry Terence isn't here. We know he's your favourite. He's our favourite too, I guess. But it sounds like he's not his daughter's favourite tonight because it sounds like he's in the bad books because he's holding her and she's in tears, which,
Not the first time someone said that.
Not the first time. Anyway, listen, this will be dropping. Well, no, it doesn't matter when it drops because you're going to be hearing it. But yeah, there'll be a review show on the weekend. I'm sure Dee's going to be doing some stuff on YouTube. Check us all out on Twitter, and listen, feel free to tweet us any abuse you want us to button to Terence. No Watford-based abuse at me, please, this week, because I've had enough of that. Anyway, All the best. Hesketh, it's been a joy.
As always, same with you, mate.
And I think, Terence, I'm obliged to say, up the Palace.